Oh, hey, okay, everybody, welcome. First off, welcome to Great Lakes Balboa Escape. Fantastic event. So many really cool things on the schedule. It's so exciting and to see like such a great event doing so many cool things. One of the things on the schedule is this, where we talk about the Balstory of Southern California. And we have here Nico Centino.
Yay!
Good morning.
Esteemed professor of things. This is how prepared I am to introduce him.
It says that on my office door.
Yep. And Tise Chao.
Oh,
Balboa dancer extraordinaire, and I'm Bobby White.
Bobby White. Mr. Bobby.
Hey folks, this is going to be a fairly informal conversation / presentation. So we have some images, or we might not, but we really wanted to be able to get together and share some information and some stories as it relates to this weird, wonderful journey of Balboa and Bao swing. So I think what might be helpful to start us off is to get a quick primer on vocabulary. So people say Balboa, people say pure Bao, people say Bao swing, people say LA swing. What do these terms mean?
So, should I go? Yeah. Balboa is what originated. It's Balboa, the dance alone Balboa is a closed position dance. You'd never open up. That's Balboa. That's where it came from back in the 30s at the Rendezvous Ballroom. And that's because it was so crowded. Everybody went there. The ballroom was a lot bigger than this place, but it was packed with people dancing. So there was no space to open up. So everybody danced back to back, right next to each other. You had to keep it closed, and that's where Balboa came from. So you dance to a very nice, smooth ballroom floor with their very nice, smooth leather shoes. And everybody gathered together at the rendezvous, and all the big bands came in. And this is all the information that I learned by knowing the original dancers for the past 30 years. They told me this, and everybody went there. And so Balboa was a very close position dance. So that's what Balboa is. Now, after that, a lot of the kids, like the Hal and Damerons, all those, they went to the ballroom, and then they came back to LA. They're from LA. So the LA kids had space, and they were fun, and they were creative. And so they picked up whatever Balboa was, brought it to LA, and they started doing their own fun movements. And so what they call it, because it's not Balboa anymore, they're open, they're doing turns, they're doing all this crazy stuff. They call it swing. So today, most of the dancer, I would say majority of the dancer, are swing dancers. I hate to break you that, but nobody's doing really Balboa. Unless you see a pure Bao contest or someone doing pure Bao, that's Balboa. So today, what we coined it, in my generation, the mid-timers, as I call it, we learned that Balboa is a closed position dance. And then swing is this open dance. And by the way, swing is not Lindy Hop either. It's just a dance on its own. So when they opened it up, it became swing. And so we're like, how do you differentiate from people doing swing, not thinking that that's also Lindy Hop or some other form of swing dancing? So we coined it, okay, let's just call this pure Balboa. And then for swing, let's call it Bao swing, because we use element of Balboa in the swing dancing. So for you learning, or you already know what you're doing, understand that when we say Balboa, it's a closed position dance. You do not open up, okay? Do not open up. So if you want to do Balboa, it's body-to-body connection. If you're opening up, you're doing swing now, what we call Bao swing today. So make sure you understand that Balboa is this and swing is open. So if you're doing open, you're doing swing dancing, Bao swing, okay? So because the original dancer emphasized that Balboa is a dance on its own. There's no other dance, well, there are many dances that are just body to body, but Balboa, it's the feel of the dance that's most important. The connection with your partner, that is most important. It's a body lead dance. So you want to be able to lead and follow and doing all kinds of fancy footwork, right? But that's Balboa. When you open up to swing, hey, you do what you need to do. You make it fancy, you make it look nice, you make it feel good. You're dancing with your partner. So understand that all the original dancers said, Balboa is a feel dance. It's not a show dance. Today we have gotten into the competition mode that is becoming, bigger and bigger, and I don't care what you're doing swing, as long as you're keeping it smooth. That's in the genre of Balboa and Bal swing.
So Tise, to show the contrast, I pulled a clip, and there'll be Ed and Inez Thompson on the right, and then Hal and Marge Takir on the left. So maybe Tise, if you take a look at this clip, maybe you can tell us a little bit some of the distinctions you see between Ed and Inez Thompson doing more pure more Balboa, and then Hal and Marge doing more swing.
Okay. So you see the couple in the middle? Wait, okay. The couple on the your left, that's Hal and Marge. The one in the middle here, that's the Thompsons, Ed and Inez Thompsons. And they're doing pure Bal. They don't open up. They're original Balboa dancers, and they keep their footwork really fancy and fast and smooth. On the left, you see Marge and Hal, they're opening up. That's swing. And Hal was a very creative, innovative dancer. He didn't dance like anybody else. He had his own timing. He had his own footwork. And he was just great. So they went down to Bal Rendezvous. They learned Balboa. They brought it up to LA. And that was Bobby McGee's that they were dancing at. That's a Rendezvous ballroom. You see how big it was? It's still there. It was burned down, but they rebuilt it. It's not as big as it used to be. And that's where all the great band leaders play there. And they all went down there to watch him and dance there. And after they learned it, they brought it back. And the joy just kept on spreading and spreading.
Bobby, you had a chance to speak to an original LA dancer that went to the Rendezvous Ballroom quite famously and was pictured in magazines of the region. And you had a chance to talk to him a little bit before he passed away, Roy Damron. What were some things that he shared with you about dancing in LA as a swing dancer?
Excellent. Yeah. So Roy Damron was a swing dancer more than a Balboa dancer. He was in the Alhambra Alligators.
Yes.
And so that's northwest Los Angeles?
Northeast.
Los Angeles.
East.
Northeast. That's right. Yeah, northeast Los Angeles. He and his friends, first off, I got to talk to him for about 9 hours. And he was in Hawaii, and he wore only a sarong for about 8 of those hours, which I took as a sign that he was comfortable with me. The pants very quickly came off after we were talking. So that's the kind of free spirit that Roy Damron is. And Roy Damron said that he and his friends, a lot of those, you might have heard before in your classes or just talking with folks like us, that it was pretty well known that a lot of people could tell which high school you went to based on your basic. Like, that's how specific and regionalized a lot of these dance steps were. So Roy has his friends in his high school, and they're all, this group of friends is really passionate about the swing dancing. And so they all usually mostly dance with each other. And part of it is that high school regionalism. Like, basically, if you're inventing a dance, it's not necessarily going to work with people from across town. It will work with the people that you've invented the dance with. And so their style of swing works really well with their partners. They do social dance with other people. It's just they usually dance with each other. And so the way it worked is you have all these Masonic lodges, all these Elks lodges, all of these organizations who have clubhouses all around the area, and almost all of those clubhouses have a ballroom in them. Many of you have probably danced in an Elks Lodge or a Masonic Lodge in the modern era because they still are a great place to find good ballroom floors. And so these Masonic lodges, Elks Lodges, etc., they realized that swing was really popular with the kids, and so if they just put a band on the bandstand and charge kids for admission, they'll make good money hosting these swing dances. And so these swing dances are happening all the time, every night of the week, all over Southern California. You can go and find a swing band. And so think if you're a teenager and you've got X amount of money and X amount of resources, if a band that you like well enough is playing 10 minutes drive away or a 10-minute trolley car away, you're probably going to go there. You're not necessarily going to go from Los Angeles all the way down to Newport Beach area, which is about an hour or so on the trolley, hour or so drive, give or take.
Longer.
Longer.
Because by car is an hour.
Oh, by cars an hour, so the trolleys are probably longer.
Like 4 hours.
4 hours?
Yeah, they were slow.
Shit. All right, so you're most likely to dance in the areas around you. However, what if it's Benny Goodman who's playing at the Rendezvous Ballroom, or Count Basie, who, by the way, is like almost unanimously on the top 3 list of every single old-timer I've ever talked to. Black or white, Count Basie is on the top 3 list. But what if Count Basie is playing down in the Newport Beach area? Well, you're going to get there with your friends, and you're going to go there, and so you're going to, when you get there, you're going to see the local Balboa dancers, and you're a crowd of swing dancers, and so you're going to mingle on the dance floor. A lot of those swing dancers are going to learn Balboa. A lot of those Balboa dancers might start picking up swing, and some of those swing dancers are going to start putting Balboa into their swing dancing, creating the bow swing we've been talking about. So you are having this mixture. Again, like you're maybe more likely to dance with the people that you dance well with, which tend to be people from your area, from your region, but it's not stopping you from dancing with folks from other areas. And that, and so Roy Damron talks about how they would go down to Balboa, and there was a famous, like he mentioned, there was a shoot for a magazine. They had a lot of photography magazines back in the day, right? And photographer magazines love doing swing dance related articles because it's really fun it's really fun to take pictures of swing dancers. Swing dancing pictures look really exciting. And so Roy Damron and his group, the Alhambra Alligators, were kind of featured in this photo shoot that took place in the Balboa, in the Rendezvous Ballroom. Yeah? Yeah.
And Tise, you got to dance with Roy as well, right?
I did. I danced with all the greats. I was so lucky. I danced with Roy. Everybody that you see up there, I danced with in the Bobby McGee videos. Willie, Maxie, not so much. Hal, a lot. Bart, Roy Dameron. I even danced with Gil Brady. Do you guys know Gil? He's not a Balboa dancer, he's a swing dancer. Also, oh God, who was that? Who was that? There was another guy that I danced with. I'm blanking out right now. What? John Mills was not really a Balboa dancer. It was Ann who's a Balboa dancer. So Ann Mills, and I talked with all of the great followers. They were amazing. Ann Mills is one of my favorite followers. She gave us so many good advices for follows, not just dance advice, but life advice too. It was amazing. She was one of the greatest human.
What's a piece of life advice that Ann Mills gave you?
Well, she always say, you be independent. You can do anything that if you wanted to do. And also, she always said that, feel free to create your own footwork. You're not confined to whatever the lead is leading you. So you can play with your footwork. You can get fancy with your footwork as long as you're on time, on tempo. And also, she also said you can always, if the lead is off, you can make them be on time.
One thing, I got the privilege of dancing with Ann and a few of the original old-timer follows. And one thing I remember so distinctly is that every single one of them that I danced with danced 100% like themselves. And it's almost like they would not allow me to make them look inelegant. or to make them look off time or anything like that. I was a new dancer at the time, and so, you know, I'm probably doing this kind of stuff. And they made this look like, they were unstoppable forces of themselves.
Oh, I remember Harry Berlin and Dean Raftery. Yeah, those are the greatest Balboa dancers that I was so lucky to be able to dance with them. They were older by then, you know, they didn't move as fast as you see them on video, but they were so smooth. You know, the first time, you know, we all kind of watched the videos, and then someone said, you know what, these old-timers are still alive. We're like, what? We're like, we thought they were like, you know, so old that, you know, it's like vintage videos, right?
They must be like in their 60s.
60s or something. And so they're like, yeah, they're still dancing at Bobby McGee's. We're like, what? So we all drove down there the first time, because I've watched these videos. I don't know if you guys know Frida Wyckoff. She is amazing. She is in one of the very famous videos, dancing with George Wyckoff. George Christoph. You know, when he dove over her, he was kind of like doing these things, and she's super hot and sexy. So Frida will come to all of the dances, and she has a bag loaded of VHS videotapes. And she, at home, she records all these little chunks from all the movies. And she's like, do you want a video? We're like, yeah, you got a video? She goes, $25. We're like, okay.
She did the exact same thing to me. I go to Camp Hollywood 2003 or whatever, and I show up to the dance when it starts. And so I'm there alone with a row full of old-timer. We call them old-timers. It's a term of endearment.
Yeah.
Old-timers. And so there's a whole row of old-timer follows, and one by one, they danced Balboa with me. And then she walks me back. She's like, I've got something for you. This right here is a VHS tape of like all the old Balboa dancers. And I'm like, that's so nice. Thank you. I must have made an impression. She must think of me as maybe one of the future torchbearers of this dance. And then she's like, that's $25. And I'm like, okay, let me get my wallet.
Yeah. So that was our swing dance Bible that we played it over and over. I think mine just kind of warped by now. I can't play it anymore. Hopefully I think it's all on YouTube now, so you can watch it on YouTube. But anyways, so we watched that video over and over every day, every single day. We danced every night, by the way. LA was the mecca of swing dancing back in the late 90s. We danced every night. We didn't care if we had to work. And so we'll take naps during the lunchtime and then go back, wait in line 7 p.m., go to dance. We went to the Derby. And so we watched these videos over and over, so that we knew who every single dancer was. And when someone said, you know what, they're still around, they're dancing at Bobby McGee's, we're like, let's go. We caravan over every other Sunday, 4 to 7, we were there. The first time I went into Bobby McGee's, I was like, oh my God, there's Hal, there's Bart, there's Natalie Esparza, there's Ann Mills. We're like, they're all here. My heart just sank. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. So we got the courage to go in and dance, right? They're like, come on in, kids. They'd call us kids. We're the Bobby McGee kids. Come on in, kids. So we went there, and then when Hal asked me to dance, I was so nervous, because I knew, I watched him, we studied him, we broke down every single step that he did. And we were all hyperactive, jitterbugs. We're like, yeah, we get to dance, we're going to do all these things. He started leading me in Balboa. I'm like, is he dancing? Yeah, he is dancing. I had to tone down my volume to listen to his dance, because it was so smooth that you couldn't barely feel it if you don't listen, if you don't pay attention. I finally learned to dial down my volume and just feel his lead. And then I was like, wow, it's like dancing on butter. It was so smooth. There's a lead, I can follow him, it was very clear, but it was so settled and so smooth, and it was so small and so intimate that I was like, this is Balboa. I get it now. This is Balboa. And I'm like, well, maybe it's just Hal dancing this way. Nope. I danced with Bart. Same thing. I danced with Dean. Same thing. Even though they all dance a little bit different because of the body shape and type, but the feel of it, it's all smooth. It's like dancing on ice. It's so smooth. And when you go to Bobby McGee's, you got to be really careful because they throw that wax on the floor. And I was like a Bambi on ice. I was like, oh my God, how do you even stay steady on this? But you learn. You learn how to dance on this smooth floor. And we're wearing leather. Well, back then we had like bucks. We're like, chrome our shoes. But then we decided, no, we got to get leather shoes. So we started wearing leather shoes from Remix, back the original Remix. And we learned how to dance in that smooth floor. It's constantly waxed. There's not a time where it's sticky, not once.
If you haven't, so their wax is different than like a box of ballroom wax that you might buy in the modern era, because the modern ballroom wax doesn't involve rat poison and other things that the old timers had in their wax to make it lethal and stay all night. And if you want to learn more, you can ask Corey Menke right here.
There you
Corey
go,
Menke.
the wax dealer.
First one's free.
After that, it's $25. Did want to note that we do have the commemorative Bobby McGee's question mug. So if you have a question, write down a piece of paper, throw it in, and we'll pull the questions out of the mug later on in the presentation. Speaking of dancers like Hal, we get this impression that the old timers, these Balboa dancers, Bao swing dancers, that it was mostly like a white Anglo thing. Is that true?
No, it's not. It's completely false.
There's a few things that have really kind of blurred perception versus the reality of the original dancing era. So one of those is that, first off, Hollywood movies back in the day, as progressive as Southern California was in the grand scheme of America culture, the movies that they made still had to be shown in the Midwest and the South. And so that meant that if there was so the swing dance craze is happening in Southern California, and it's all the rage. And Southern California is a melting pot. Nico has this great phrase about it being a Wild West town, if you want to kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, LA being a part of the story of Bao swing and Balboa is a region, right? So you've got LA, but it's really like LA County and then like parts of Orange County. So a lot of people consider Disneyland a part of LA, even though it's in Anaheim, right? So Newport Beach, the home of the Balboa Rendezvous Ballroom, it's kind of LA, The tricky thing with LA is that the type of segregation that was in LA was different than what you saw in the South or in New York and other places, where it was the Jim Crow era. There was segregation, but it was de facto segregation. So you knew through social conventions and social mores where and where you weren't necessarily welcome. And in Los Angeles, they had residential segregation, and so they had what they called redlining. So they would take a real estate map and draw a red line around parts of the city where you could only sell to, white, Anglo-Saxon, et cetera, right? But the rest of LA, they really didn't care. So you had people coming in from the Dust Bowl, right? Most likely dressed like Bobby in his overalls. Folks that were the Okies and Arkies that were trying to make a new life out west, living side by side with people coming from, second generation folks from Japan or people from Russia. And Willie Desvetov, a famous Bao swing dancer, was a part of a Russian ethnicity called the Moluccans, right? And so you had these neighborhoods and schools where folks were interacting, were listening to music and dancing with each other. So it's tricky telling these stories in a way because people assume it's similar to things like the Savoy Ballroom, where it's one ballroom in one neighborhood in one city, whereas in LA it's a whole region, right?
And so so you have these ballrooms are fully integrated. like you've got Roy Damron, who we mentioned earlier. Roy Damron would go to dances outside of the Los Angeles area, and they would see the black kids, a lot of which came from Central Avenue area, and the black kids would say, "Hey, are y'all guys coming up to Central Avenue after the dance tonight?" And often the answer was yes, because the after party was at Central Avenue. And so they would go there, and Roy said that they would dance. They would dance with each other. They would sit at the same tables as each other. Sometimes they would have romantic relationships with each other. But they were, these were teenagers who were dancing on a mixed dance floor. We know that people like Natalie Esparza, one of the great dancers, she's Latinx, Latin American. And the old timers have talked to us about there were one of the best pure Balboa, we would say pure Balboa, they would say Balboa. One of the best Balboa followers they ever knew was this person of color in the Balboa region. And so these dance floors are really mixed melting pots, and we'll maybe show you some pictures in a moment. But the Hollywood movies, they have to sell those movies in the Midwest and the South, and the people in the Midwest and the South do not want their teenagers to see clips of people dancing on integrated dance floors. And so anytime that Hollywood makes a movie with a swing dance scene, which is a lot, because this is the teeny bopper craze of the 30s, and so every movie that's about teenagers has a swing dance scene in it. And then the World War II comes along, and so now every movie that's about the soldiers is going to have a swing dance scene in it when the soldiers are on leave or on break. And so all of these swing dance scenes, of which there's hundreds of them from this era, almost all of them have a dance floor that looks almost completely generic white. Now, as we already mentioned, a lot of those white dancers in and of themselves are first or second generation immigrants. You have a lot of folks were escaping the Armenian genocide. And so Ann Mills, who we talked about, her family escaped the Armenian genocide. And Hal Taker was Armenian Turkish. And so, again, Willie Desatov, Russian dancer. Genevieve Grazic is Lithuanian. And some Lithuanian dancers, by the way, are super excited, and they're talking to her son and exploring the history of her. They're really excited about that connection. But yeah, so we have a really mixed dance floor situation. This is great. A picture of Willie Desatov and his hi-fi club. You see pictures of the high schools were not. The high schools were integrated, and so you have pictures of Willie Desatov in his class next to Asian Americans, next to Black Americans, Latinx Americans. Remember, these dance basics were like high school based. And so, like, if you're in the cafeteria working on your dancing, if you're staying after school working on your dancing, it's not like there's going to be a strict racial divide between all the dancing that you're doing.
Yeah, I pulled a couple archival photos. Willie Desatov here from his high school yearbook. We've got some Latino dudes in the back. The guy above him might be Filipino. Let's see here. When we get to Central Avenue, definitely wanted to pass it over to Bobby in a quick moment. But you had other groups that were swing dancing. Again, swing was the pop music of its era. If you were of that age and you were a kid and if you wanted to be hip, you were swing dancing.
So there's you have the Pachuco, Club Pachuco. So here's an interesting fact. Natalie Esparza, she's Mexican, and her husband Tony. So when they first started kind of doing swing, Balboa, there you go. She's there dancing with Tony, her husband, and she put in the Pachuco steps in there, which is kind of like what we call the grapevines, when they're doing the lollies. So instead of tap, step, brush, step, tap, brush, she's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So she put in their own cultural dance Pachuco steps in there. So that's what their contribution that they put in there. So what you see, it's really, we don't know where it originates, but everybody put in their little flavor. And that's where it comes. And Natalie's one of the greatest followed that we witness, that we watch and we study when we go to Bobby McGee's. We see her with her skirt, with her heels. We're like, look, there's Natalie. She's doing her thing. Everybody just watch because she's just amazing to watch.
All right, so let's see. So really quickly, we talked about the Hollywood dance scenes. Here's one of the most famous dance scenes from that era. This is called Twice Blessed, but just to kind of show you what the Hollywood perception is, and therefore what most of our perceptions are today of what Southern California swing dancing was like. That's Hal Take Care and
Hal.
Angie Scott. That's Lenny Smith and Kay Smith. This flip they do is what they call it the K-flip.
The K-flip.
This is the merry-go-round, which people today call the carousel. But you can see the basic idea, right? Okay, yeah, this is a standard white American dance floor. So one of my favorite, the Los Angeles Public Library has a whole bunch of photos from the swing era that you can go check out on your laptops on the internet. And there are a lot of really beautiful ones. And one of the cool things, recent computer technology has allowed there to be colorization that's actually pretty darn good. And even though it's not 100% accurate because it's just going based on algorithms and that kind of stuff, I love how it shows you the power of seeing all the different skin tones in a room, all the different colors that we have as human beings. And so here are some classic Los Angeles pictures that have been digitally colorized, but that give you, I think, a much more accurate representation of what those dance floors were like back in the day. So, swing dancing was so popular that they would have contests in stadiums. And so there would be 1,000 competitors and a couple thousand people in the stands watching these contests. And so there's a lot of press around them and stuff. And so these pictures were taken from some of those stadium contests where you get basically a large bulk of the Southern California dancers all in one area. And so this is Roy Damron, actually. The person we've been talking about, that's Roy Damron in the funky shirt. He's known for his funky shirts. They were made from actually shower curtains, and they weren't made to withstand the rigors of sweating as a jitterbugger. And so Roy said that he would come home different colors from the dyes running all over him. But anyway, if you see, we have if you look at the crowd, there's just people of obviously not your standard white American looking dancing audience, and in fact, that's a whole lot of these folks that are dancing here. Here's another. I asked Roy point blank, just to make sure to cover the bases, like, were people of all different cultures doing Balboa, as in pure Balboa? He said, yes. All different cultures doing swing? Yes. All different cultures doing Balboa swing? Yes. All different cultures doing Lindy Hop? Yes. He said all of these things.
So you'll notice that in some of these pictures, there'll be like signs that have state names on them. Those people aren't really from that state. They're just local Los Angeles people that they try to pretend were for out of town to hype up the contest.
So Central Avenue was called the Little Harlem of Los Angeles. And it's where the Dunbar Hotel was. It's where a lot of the clubs were. It's, as they say, it's like the Little Harlem of Los Angeles. Once again, integrated dance floors, like we mentioned earlier. That's where a lot of the kids would go for the after-hours dancing. And here's an example. You can see the fully integrated ballroom, couples dancing. A lot of the pictures that you'll see of the swing dancing from the Los Angeles archives, a lot of them are taken in Central Avenue.
And you notice in every ballroom with the LA kids in LA, everybody dance every dance. It's not just we all do Balboa. It's not just we all do swing. Everybody did everything in the same ballroom.
Bobby, can you go back a quick second to the Dunbar? To that slide? If you can blow it up again. Notice the sheen off of the floor. Right? Look how waxed that floor is. You can see her legs reflected the... in the floor there?
The floor was their pride. They kept these floors. This is an old floor, something like this. They waxed it. They maintained it so well because they know people wanted that smooth floor.
Side note, if you go and watch the Spirit Moves footage, the Savoy Ballroom dance floor in that footage is also obviously very slick and waxed.
Have you ever been to the Santa Barbara Carrillo Rec Room? That floor is built to bounce. It has springs underneath the entire ballroom. So when you're dancing there, let's say if you're doing Balboa, really smooth, and you got a shag dancer next to you, you're gonna feel this. While you're doing Balboa, you're like, wait a minute, this is off, something's weird. But that's how much pride they took in building a good dance floor.
And then one thing I just wanted to throw at all of you, this was from a presentation I did in Harangue. We talk a lot about, what are the things that make up a swing dance? So first off, we know that we're doing Balboa and Bal Swing and all these dances to jazz dance, which is a Black American art form. A lot of Black American dances, if you think of, for instance, Lindy Hop, share a lot of these common traits right here. We have prioritizing rhythm and swing. We have improvisation. We have full body movement allowed. We have individualism and teamwork together. Individualism and teamwork is a connecting force with each other. Experiential aesthetics. What that means, experiential aesthetics, is if you think of kind of like if we heavily oversimplify and stereotype ballet, you think of, I will make a shape, and it won't necessarily be comfortable for me to make this shape, but I'm going to make a shape that will look pretty so that you can say, wow, what a pretty shape. Again, vast oversimplification, but like that's like I'm here to make a shape in a specific way. An experiential aesthetic is when you say, I want to feel what it's like to throw my arm in the air. I want to feel what it's like to kick my leg. You're not trying to create a painting for another person. You're trying to experience something as a human being, and that in and of itself, when viewed by another human being, is something that you share with that person. And then finally, competition, performance, and sharing, and jam circles is in parentheses. So every single one of these things is a value that we see in the original Southern California swing dancers. We see prioritizing rhythm and swing. How many old timers prioritize rhythm and swing? Dean Collins was a judge in contest, only judging the criteria of if they swing or not. Improvisation. We're here to improvise. We're not doing rote steps. We're not doing hard, fastened choreography. We're improvising as we social dance. Full body movement allowed. This is especially true in things like swing, and not as much pure Balboa because it was a tightly packed dance and it has its own traditions in that sense. But full body movement is allowed. Individualism and teamwork. Your partner has a voice. You have a voice. You're working together. Experiential aesthetics. Things like kicking and jumping and leaping and throwing your arms in the air and shrugging your shoulders. All of those things. And then finally, competition, performance, and sharing. All these, so many of these Southern California dancers that you see these pictures are taken in jam circles. That is something that is handed down through the generations through Black American experiences. It's not like, it would be, yeah. Anyway, point being, what we're seeing here is, in case people mention that these dances seem like they're white dances, these are ways that we're trying to help people understand that no, it's very complicated and so much of it is in Black American dancing values.
Well done, Bobby.
Oh, and one fun last thing. I know that were there any questions yet? Because anything else that you want to make sure we covered? Because if not, I can show the. I'll do it really quick.
Corey has his hand up. I started swing dancing back in 1997. You know when the movie Swingers came out? We all watched it, and we let's go
money,
to
baby.
Yeah, you're so money. And the Gap commercial came out, So by the way, I knew Christian Perry, the guy with the flowy hair jumping over the girl. He was a swing dancer then, but he doesn't do it anymore. But yeah, that was the craze that LA was just so hyped up about. After the Gap commercial, the movie Swingers, we found out that was filmed at the Derby. So we're like, hey, let's go. We all went. That was it.
Did you have any prior dance experience in other dances?
Yes, I grew up doing all kinds of dances, you know. I did studio dancing, I did jazz, I did ballet, I did flamenco a lot before I started getting into this. I did a lot of salsa also, but when I started swing, that was like, that's it. It's such a high. It's so happy, and it's so joyful, and you have so much freedom to express. You know, you're interpreting the music, and I never left, and that was it. But I was gonna say, yeah, so, you know, because I had a background in dancing, I knew how to count, I knew how to break down moves. So when I started dancing with the original dancer, I'm like, what did Hal just do? And I'll say, can you do that again, Hal? He's like, yeah. So I will count it in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he taught me the shoulder. And I said, and Nick was there, and Jeremy, was Jeremy there? No, it was Nick. So I said, Nick, come here, come here, come here. Hal just taught me the shoulder. He's like, what's that? I said, okay, this is what it is. Go with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's like, that? It's like, no. So I kept on like kind of just feeling how the original dancers felt. And I kind of just, like the movie Ghost. I'm like, here's how it feels like. All right?
Oh, you were pulling an Ann Mills.
There you go. Yes, I was doing that exactly. So, and I danced with Dean Raftery, and I was like, oh, he feels different. He has a circular motion. And so, again, it's like, okay, come here, try this. This is how Dean danced. And then Bart, this is how Bart does a leg thing. It's like, oh, okay. So I was kind of like channeling all these original greats, and then I was able to get the leads to do it. I said, yeah, that's how you did it. So that's how, we kind of spread the joy.
We have a bit of time for some questions, so if folks have any, feel free to just raise your hand and yell them out. A lot of them were married, right?
Most of them, they were married. They were dancing with their partners, with their spouses. And a lot of the time they say this is, do you dance with your sweetheart? And that's why, Balboa was so intimate for them. And that's where it came from. But then when you go into like the kids, the Alhambra alligators, they're all high school kids. They all just dance with each other.
Yeah, and so like we've got Hal danced a lot with his wife. Early on, his wife wasn't as excited about dancing as he was. He had another partner, Angie, which was in that last clip that we had. For a lot of them, if you're seeing them, there's this weird feedback loop. There's a weird feedback loop where you start getting interested in swing dancing, and in order to grow and get better, or maybe you just fall in love dancing with one person, or one person really feels great with you, then you start doing it more and more with that person, and then you start developing material with that person, and then maybe you do some auditions, you do some contests, and so now you're kind of just like, you've developed your voice so much with this other person. And so like, it's just like the Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, just like all of the Lindy Hopper greats that you've heard of in the past, there's an entire dance floor of social dancers that we don't know about and that we don't see very much, just because they weren't in that feedback loop that kept putting them in front and center kind of in our memories and in the camera and that sort of thing. Yeah,
and also because there was so much competitions everywhere that they worked out their moves. Like Hal, he had a list of moves, and when I was social dancing with him, he'll whisper in my ear, now we're going to do the choo-choo. I was like, okay, I know the choo-choo. Now we're going to kick the can. All right, kick the can. And so he had moves coming down. There's a video of a list that he has. And then those are the lists that he worked out with his dance partners. So they all know. And if they can't lead and follow, they'll call it. They're like, oh, okay, here we go. So they are very serious about competing and winning. And Hal won so many things that, there's a picture of him getting an award with Betty from Ginger Rogers. It was just amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I would say the modern average social dancer is capable of really amazing, complex lead and follow stuff compared to probably a lot of those original average social dancers. Basically meaning that like the thing that the modern scene really has going for it really well is that like we've got a rich language of lead and follow and comfort techniques and that kind of stuff so that you can dance really well with, 90% of the people in a ballroom. And I don't think that was necessarily the case back in the day. It was a lot more kind of like, you work really well with this person because they're, from your high school and you dance really close to each other and you work all the time.
I'd say we're just about at time. As a way to wrap up, what are some ways that we can keep this history alive?
As I study what's out there, Bobby has a great swung over website that he wrote. He's written so many articles. He's a great historian. He's written so many articles. He has interviewed so many original dancers, and he has a collection of all this information that go on the website. Look at all the YouTube videos. Study of the original dancer. You don't have to dance like them, but you have to learn what Balboa is. And as Hal will always say, show me something. Because when we're dancing on the floor, they don't want to see their moves being done by us. They want to see you creating your own moves. That it's outstanding, So that's why they keep on saying, show me something, show me something. And we're like, this? No, you're doing it wrong. Show me something that you got, not what I've taught you. That's what they meant. So have fun, feel the music, feel the dance, interpret the music, interpret the dance with your own body movements, but really feel the dance. That's what you want to get out of Balboa is feel the rhythm, feel the dance.
All right, let's hear it for our panel.
Thank you.